What are the issues keeping CEOs awake at night? And how can business leaders help shape a more sustainable world that works for us all? I'm Halla Mohieddeen. Welcome to Global Perspectives from KPMG. Guest on Global Perspectives is the personification of the mantra, anything is possible. She made her name as an actress and almost established herself as an Olympic sports star, just missing out on the chance to represent the US in archery. But it's arguably her efforts and successes in campaigning that make her stand out from the crowd. I'm delighted to welcome Gina Davis to the podcast. Gina, thanks for joining us on Global Perspectives.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be with you. Thanks.
Well, many of our viewers and listeners will be aware of your huge success in TV and film. Some might even have known about your sporting prowess, but it's your mission to motivate and inspire female empowerment that I'm keen to talk to you about today. You founded the Gina Davis Institute on Gender in Media in an attempt to reduce stereotyping of females in the media. And that seems to have led to some impressive efforts to tackle broader gender inequality issues. Can you tell us more?
Yes, it all started, it technically all started when I was in Thelma and Louise, because the reaction to that was so overwhelming, which we didn't expect. And it made me realize how few opportunities we give women to come out of a movie feeling like that, empowered and like you identified with the characters, not all the way, but over the cliff. But so that really changed my outlook, my perspective. I became hyper aware of how women are presented on screen. And so that when my daughter was 2 years old and we first started watching preschool shows, thanks for the little kids, from the first show we watched, I realized that there seemed to be far more male characters than female characters for little kids. In the 21st century, I had no idea kids' entertainment would be so gender biased. So I didn't intend to make a big mission out of it for my life, but I saw it everywhere, and no one else I talked to noticed that. In fact, I talked to creators of kids media that are just, casually, and they said, no, that's not true. It's not true anymore. That's all been fixed. And so I decided I want to get the data, first of all, to see if I'm right. And then, because their bias is unconscious, they truly believed in their hearts that they were doing right by girls. Because it's unconscious, if they have the data and they realize what they're doing, maybe it could change things. So that's what happened. I got the data and it was shocking, and started very quietly meeting with studios and networks and creators and producers to share it with them. And every reaction was the same, that they were stunned that this was the case, and therefore highly motivated to make change, which was incredibly rewarding and exciting.
Well, it's incredibly inspiring to hear you talk about the efforts that you've made, and indeed that many other female leaders have made to create this genuine change. But do you feel that there's still a long road ahead?
Yes, there's a tremendously long road ahead, because in every sector of society, there's pretty much there's a huge gender disparity, especially in leadership positions. And, in the States, we have yet to have a female president. And, really, it should be just as likely that it would be a woman as a man all around the world. That would be truly show that we were equal. But so we still have a long way to go. The percentage of female CEOs and board members and any occupation you could name is very imbalanced. So we have a long way to go, and it takes efforts from every different prong to make this change happen, and every style of attack. But I'm fortunate that I found out something where it was the bias was caused unconsciously, and therefore you don't have to accuse, blame, whatever people demand. It's all been very collegial and effective. So it's and the reason I'm doing it is because I truly believe that it's a matter of profound importance and urgency, because what happens on screen will happen in real life. We can actually reflect the future on screen, and then it will happen. So, for example, getting women to be interested in STEM careers. When they see it on TV or in movies, it happens in real life. We did a study for Fox on the impact of X-Files on the Dana Scully character on women wanting to go into STEM fields. And the result was 63% of women currently working in STEM say that the reason is Dana Scully from X-Files. So imagine, I mean, that is an enormous impact. And that's one character on one show. So we can really change what happens in real life by showing it on screen.
Well, it's great that you've been able to have that impact through your work. I just wonder, though, for the CEOs and the other business leaders who are listening and watching to this episode, regardless of their gender, what advice would you give them if they're genuinely looking to have an impact, if they're wanting to increase female representation and empowerment, but they're perhaps struggling to take the first step? What advice would you give them?
I think number one is that people need to become aware of their own unconscious bias. And it's very, very hard once we have it to get rid of it. My perspective is you can't say, well, I only judge based on, the performance or whatever. I don't, I'm very aware of this, so I don't have gender bias, but it's so hard to counteract. I'll just tell a quick example. When I was in Australia one time, they told me about a short film competition they have every year. It's very popular every year. And every year, only about 17% of the films chosen to be in the competition were directed by females. And these are very educated, well-meaning people who believe they have no bias and try as hard as they could. They couldn't improve the number. So finally they decided, just as an experiment, let's take the names of the directors off the film. And it went straight to 50-50. So it's a big problem. It's a big problem. And it means that you need to become hyper aware of finding ways to counteract bias, gender bias. And so you need to have programs in place, and for different companies it's going to be different things, but that can help guarantee more equality, and not leave things to people's good intentions, which are fantastic. It's fantastic to have, but you need really concrete policies that will help counteract that.
Gina Davis, thank you so much for joining us on Global Perspectives.
Oh, I'm thrilled. Thank you very much. I hope you have a great program. Thank you.
We're joined now by KPMG's Global Chief Digital Officer, Lisa Heneghan. Lisa, thanks for joining us on Global Perspectives. We've heard from Gina Davis on why female empowerment and the tackling of gender stereotypes is so important to her. I know it's an issue close to your heart. Tell us more about your work in that space.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I've been in the technology market for a long while, 30 something years. And as you can imagine, it's been a massively male dominated environment. And certainly, if I look back to my earlier days in tech, I was almost always the only woman in the room. Now, what we've realized as I go through, and what I've realized, I think I should say, is that we have a responsibility to help women to understand the opportunities that there are for them in technology. And I think what happens is people perceive the industry to be a certain way. We actually have a fantastic initiative called IT's Her Future, which we kicked off back in 2015, and I am the sponsor for. And what we learned through that is that we need to be systematic in helping to address some of the perceptions that people have. So as an example, we'd go out into schools and young girls, when you ask them about, well, what do you think about when you think about a career in technology, would generally draw a man, maybe in glasses and sandals and, a certain look, which to them makes them feel it's just not accessible for them. And that's as young as 10 years old. So I think what's really important is we have to help people to understand the opportunities. We have to help them to be aware of something like technology as a sector and why women can be successful. So what we did with IT's Her Future is we became systematic about this. We used data. We looked at what was impacting our ability to attract women into technology in the first instance. And when we looked at that, we realized that the way we described the roles, the whole interview process, was just not suitable to make it attractive to women. So we started to rewrite things. We looked at how we shifted the process. And very quickly, we found that we were increasing the level of females accessing and joining our workplace. And then as we went through, we looked after a period of time of, well, what can we do to help women to progress? What are the things that are holding them back? And in that area, the whole perspective of having a mentor, somebody who can help you as an individual see what you could be. Because I certainly, even in my own world, can think back to my past. I think I limited myself by what I perceived, as opposed to having somebody who could help me say, well, actually, Lisa, you could do this. So those sort of things, a systematic approach is incredibly important and has made a massive difference to us. But we have to take accountability for driving that. We can't expect it to just happen unless we drive some rigor around it.
Well, you were appointed Global Chief Digital Officer quite recently after a successful period with KPMG in the UK. Digital transformation is now a vast space and a big priority for boardrooms. What's your strategy right now at KPMG?
Okay, so I am very lucky to have the role that I have. When I was in the UK as Chief Digital Officer, I used to say I had the best job in the company. I now believe I've got the best job in the company as our Global Chief Digital Officer. And the reason for that is, as you say, digital transformation is on every board agenda. Every organization is thinking about how they need to transform. And that's just risen at a pace that we've never seen before with the real drive around AI over the last few months. There isn't an organization that isn't considering how AI is going to transform their business, how they're going to need to adapt. And so my focus when I think about KPMG is really helping us to think about what does the future with AI mean for us? And that will be a mix of different things. We need to think about the services that our clients need. What are the things we should be providing to them to help them tackle those choices and make decisions? But we also need to look at how do we embed our AI into the services that we provide every day? How do we enable our people to be able to drive the use of AI? And how do we make sure that everything we do around AI is responsible and ethical and safe? So it's a very big agenda, but it's massively exciting, and it's something that we can't hold back from. We need to actually push forward on now. So just to give you a flavor of some of the things we've been doing, we recently announced an enhanced relationship with Microsoft, where we're investing significantly in Microsoft technology, but also in working together to co-innovate with AI to help our clients achieve a different level of transformation. So there's tons of opportunity, but an awful lot to do and to move quickly on to really make the most of the opportunities around AI.
And what advice and insight do you have for CEOs and other leaders looking to tackle the big future tech challenges and embed innovation in their growth strategies?
So I think one of the most critical things at the moment is around AI. And CEOs really need to be thinking about the impact that AI can have for their business. Now, there's definitely a fear factor around this. Many people you talk to, it all becomes about, well, it's going to remove jobs. It's going to disrupt our business. And, it could end up unpicking big parts of what we do today. But the reality is, I like to think about it around, if you think of doctors and you think of the use of technology for doctors, what AI does is enable doctors to actually do their job better, to potentially be able to diagnose more quickly or more precisely, and it creates better outcomes for patients. And I think that's the mindset that any CEO needs to come into when thinking about AI. What is the opportunity that it brings? How can it positively impact what we do for our customers? And then you look at what it means in terms of change for your organization. But it's a massively positive thing, but it does require a mindset which is open to the fact things will change. And the jobs that you do today may adapt and evolve into a slightly different world in the future.
Lisa Heneghan, thanks for joining us on Global Perspectives. I'm Halla Mohieddeen. Thanks for joining us this month. We'll be back again soon with another edition of Global Perspectives. In the meantime, you can listen to all of KPMG International's podcasts by searching for KPMG on your podcast platform of choice or by heading to kpmg.com.